now we are coming towards the end part of this particular course, leadership and team effectiveness. So, finally, we talk about this, that is the whenever leader is setting the goals, right, and then working with the team, and then there should be the constructive feedback is to be there. So, that if any corrective actions are to be taken, so again there will be the setting of goals. So, then action and then feedback and then corrective actions will be there. So, this will be the process. How this process works, that we will be discussing today. So, setting the goals, specific and observable, attainable but challenging goals, commitment and the feedback is there. Here some examples of the real time has been taken, that is Ratan Tata's goal related to the Tata Nano car, then the constructive feedback, and what are the essential elements, 6 elements of the constructive feedback is there. And what is expected from the leader, that is the and the team members listen before the giving feedback, and responses type for the feedback we will talking about. And as usual we will talk about the research paper, case studies and the book recommendations with the references is there. So, then definitely this is a first quote, that is when a man does not know what harbor is making for and no wind is the right wind is there, then how we will get the results, and therefore, in that case it is very important, that is if whatever the efforts are made, the efforts are made into the right directions are there. For this purpose, the setting goals, the in developing plans of action, there are the important for individual and for the groups is there. As we know, that is the whole organization is working for a particular vision, and that vision has to be matched with the objectives, then the goals, then the strategies, policies, procedures, rules. So, therefore, in that case that direction is provided by that particular vision statement of the organization, and when this vision statement is having the matching with the goals, right. So, therefore, the leaders important the job becomes, that is the setting the goals and then accordingly the plan to attain them, so that the ultimately objective of the formation of the team is achieved. Whenever the team members are accomplishing a personal or group goal is also important is there, because unless and until any individual or employee, when he does not finds any matching with his personal goals with the organizational goals, then he will not continue in the organization for a long time. So, it is very necessary, that is the all the individual goals, team goals, organizational goals, that all there they should be having the common share of the goals are there, and then each and every member of the team is working with this particular understanding, that is the when he is helping to achieve the organizational goals, simultaneously he is able to achieve his own goals also. So, these setting team goals should be the inclusive process. Now many times it has been seen that is the earlier the leaders were feeling that it is the responsibility of the leader to setting of the goals is there, but now we see that it is the inclusive process is there, and whenever we are talking about the inclusive process, it means that is the all members opinion is taken into consideration, and then the ultimately responsibility of the fixing of the goals will be remain with the leader is there. But whatever goal will be decided by the leader, that goal will be with the mutual consent of the each and every member will be there. Whenever any goal which is decided with the inclusive process, that will definitely help in the minimizing the conflict and maximizing the team effectiveness. Now, here when the goals, their goals are to be very specific, observable, realistic and achievable. So, therefore, in that case when this inclusive process is carried by the leader should be very careful. He should find out that is the on basis of his experience, he should be able to identify that whatever the goals are to be decided, what will be the strengths and weaknesses of that particular goal is there, and whether they are really achievable or they are not achievable is there. Now, the goals can be verifiable and non-verifiable also, and therefore, that a leader should take this responsibility for the verifying the goals are there. Now, here again the question will arise, that is the how this process of the fixing up goal is to be carried on. Is there should be any time limit is to be there, and then if the time limit is there, then what will be the time limit for these accomplishing these particular goals are there. So, naturally we have discussed the number of cases, and there we have found that is the any project will be accomplished by the given quality, time and cost is there. So, every goal is also associated with this quality, time and cost. So, very clear that roadmap has to be designed by these leader, so that the milestones of this roadmap that can be achieved timely. Each member knows that is the what is the time limit for achieving that particular goal is there. Now, the very interesting case study is taken, that is the case of the Tata Nano is taken, and then you see that is the it is the not only the a commercial project. Actually, it is a fulfillment of the dream, and the dream was the 1 lakh car that drive the 1 billion dreams. So, therefore, in that case it is becoming very important. That is the when we are having the goal fixation exercise, then how you will ensure that is your goal is having that particular quality and that particular achievement which the organization is looking for, and for that purpose there should be the idea generation, and therefore for any goal, right, which you fix, there should be having the dream is to be there, and when there is a dream, and then to chase that particular dream, the employees or team members, they will make their 100% efforts. So, therefore, it is the riding around on scooters with kids standing up and the mother carrying a baby and sitting pillion and decided to do something about it. It started as a quest for an affordable transportation solution is there. The goal for the Tata Nano was to sell the world's cheapest car without compromising on safety, quality and environment is there. So, these were the parameters, these were the dimensions. On basis of this dimension, this was decided that is the whatever the product will be developed, that has to be very safe, and 1 lakh rupees does not mean that is any compromise in the quality is to be done. And the another factor which has been very clearly mentioned was that is about the environment. So, it should be the environment friendly, it should not be that is the when you are reducing the cost of the car and then it is becoming the hazardous to the environment. So, goal should be in that case as I mentioned that is attainable, but yes, attainable it does not mean that is the they are sort of the just a formality or the loyalty or they must pass, as it should be a break with their ideal or reflect insufficient motivation. It should break their insufficient motivation is there. So, that this insufficient motivation will be to break, it is required that it should be challenging. Otherwise, there will be no movement. So, if any but the loftiest goal were set, yet to be useful goal must be realistic. And the corollary to the preceding point is that the goal should also be challenging. So, unless and until the goal is not challenging, then there will be not much efforts will be made. If this is the human nature, that is if anybody finds it is a goal is easily achievable, then naturally that the person will be relaxed, and therefore, in that case the quality may be get affected. So, therefore, it is very much important that is the person should be motivated by that particular challenge. It does not result in the high levels of performance. High level of performance come about when goals stretch and inspire people towards doing more than they thought they could is there. So, only that fixing of the goal is not that will be the very highly performance oriented. So, for that purpose it is necessary that is the they will require that is the they could have stretched themselves to achieve that particular goal is there. So, it is always said that is the not low aim one should keep, always it should keep the very high aims is there. And now, in this particular case study we see that is to make the cheapest car in the world, and the developers had to do lot of innovations while considering to keep the car, have the 5 people capacity is there, and R&D team did many innovations for the car like 2 piston engines for car and wheel drive with the real replacement of the engine. This is about that particular case studies, and minimum possible cost was the real challenge was there. Now we have talked about the leadership and employee commitment and employee engagement, right. So therefore, in that case, whenever any goal is decided and when it is a challenging goal, as we have discussed, that is the goal has to be the challenging, then in that case the very high commitment of the employees is required. If the employees are not having that 100% commitment to for their goal achievement, then many times we find that is the projects are failed. So there is nothing magical about having goals, and therefore many people you will find that is they are appearing in a very competitive examinations, but they are not successful, because just appearing in the examination will not be enough. So similarly, so only fixation of the goal that does not give the guarantee of the success. So it has to be real human commitment, and that commitment by these team members specially, that will lead for the that path of success. So goal statements are just mere words, and many times we find that is we visit the organizations and there are the statements are there, and when we interact with the organizations, then we find that is no, there is no match between those words which you have written on these vision mission statements and what exactly the employees are doing. So therefore, top leadership needs to make clear that it is willing to put its money in goal, and therefore in that case that is the investment, and it is not only the case of the money, it is also the case of the emotions. So whenever the leader is fixing any particular goal, as we have seen in the case of the Nano car, that is it was not the question of the investment of money, but it was the question of the dream achievement by Mr. Ratan Tata for the creation of such a car which will be useful for the this typical size and the class of the families. When top leadership sets goal, it always it should be provided with the right directions, and therefore in that case whenever the right directions are provided and with the help of the concerning the all the members or the project managers, project team is there, and then definitely we will find that is the commitment of the employees that has made this particular project successful. So first they have set up the plant in Singur, West Bengal, but the project faced massive opposition from the displaced farmers. So therefore then political support by West Bengal's then opposition party, Trinamool Congress, and various environmental activists they were involved to and as a result of which just before the launch they were compelled to close the plant, and Ratan Tata blamed agitation by that time of the chief minister and the supporters for the pull out the decisions is there. But the group remained committed to attaining the goal and decided to shift the plant to Sanand, Gujarat, after a warm welcome from the CM of the Gujarat. That time of CM, that is Narendra Modi, is there. So it took 14 months to build a new factory in Sanand, Gujarat, compared to 28 months for the old single factory is there, right. So therefore this particular that commitment which was that is, yes, this car is to be manufactured by this Tata group and under the dynamic leadership of Mr. Ratan Tata. So therefore one of the most effective ways to improve any kind of performance is to provide feedback about how closely a person's behavior matches some criteria. And the research shows that performance is much higher when goals are accompanied by the feedback than when either goals or feedbacks are used alone. So therefore this is the always a continuous improvement process. And when our behavior is matching some criteria, so then definitely in that case the goals are accompanied by these particular feedback. Goals that are specific, observable and time limited are conducive to ongoing assessment, and performance based feedback is there, and therefore in that case these leaders and the followers should strive to provide and seek the regular feedback is there. And when you are having the continuous constructive feedback, then as a result of which the leader has a vision to on the basis of the feedback if there is any amendment is to be taken or any changes are to be made. So in case the feedback regarding goals are not taken care of, that disvesting effect will be there. And because you see that is many times for example I was mentioning the parameters of the time, cost and quality is there, and if there is an alarming situation where the cost is to be increased, then if that feedback is not noticed, then we can see that is what happens to the project. And we already know many projects, because that whatever the feedback was coming, that was ignored, and as a result of which the project is half done and it is not completed. So, it becomes very important that is the before we go to the complete failure of any particular project, it is better that is the we understand that is the what are the reasons are there for with which we can take the corrective actions. So, these then there were the feedback ignorance, then there were the fire issues in Tata Nano, and then there were unsafe perceptions was there, and therefore, the ignorance of the marketing feedback was done. So, therefore, in that case it is the that image building of this particular case that has been the considered. Now, so therefore, what is important is that is the constructive feedback is important. So, feedback is information about the reactions to a product or a person's performance of a task, which may be used as a basis for improvement is there. So, we were talking since beginning itself that is there, it is about the corrective actions, and in the corrective actions then that is the performance that has to be used as a basis for improvement. So, constructive feedback is meant to help improve the performance of an individual or a team, and should not be used to tear them down is there. Now, it is to be understood there is a difference between the criticism and constructive feedback is there. So, whenever we are talking about the constructive feedback, then it has been communicated, it has been understood, and it has been implemented in such a way. So, therefore, the team is not let down. So, therefore, in that case the team members and leaders, they all should be very careful while interacting with each other that they do not criticize, rather than they go for the constructive feedback is there. So, sharing information or perceptions with the another about the nature, quality or impact of that person's behavior, and getting helpful feedback is essential to a subordinate's performance and development is there. Similarly, when the team members are giving the feedback to the leader, so leader will take the corrective action, the leader will also give the feedback to the team members, and therefore, their performance where they are required to develop, then essential steps will be taken. So, without feedback, a subordinate will not be able to tell whether he or she is doing a good job, or whether her or his abrasiveness is turning people off and hurting her chances for the promotion is there. So, naturally many times it has been seen in the organizations that is for the career planning is concerned, promotion is concerned, transfer is concerned, and then in that case the boss has not any communicated anything to the subordinate, and then his decisions are coming as a surprise to the subordinate is there. So, why it is happened? It is happened because that is the superior, he has not given the any hint, or we can say the feedback in this context to the subordinate, that is the way he is working that is required to be changed, or their improvements are required. So, keeping in mind this type of these motivation and demotivation both in the presence and absence of the constructive feedback, these 6 elements of are to be taken into the notice. The first one is the helpful is there. So, a very good example is given, I got better scores when I was going through this program when you just did, and this seems to be a difficult area for you, what can I do to help you master it better? And therefore, in that case you will find that is the approach, and that approach is to helping others, and therefore, in that case we have given the feedback also, right, and simultaneously we have communicated that is to improve your performance, how I can be helpful to you. Then the direct is another element. It is important that we all speak loud enough to be heard in meetings is there. So, we should be able to put our points very strongly, and I had a difficult time hearing you in the meeting because you were speaking in such a soft voice. So, therefore, in that case it is a direct constructive feedback is there, which is to be told. So, many times that is the team members or the leaders their voice is so low, therefore, in that case the message is not properly communicated. So, and especially in the case of the meetings are concerned, be specific, since you come to work for us, your work has been good, I really like the initiative and resourcefulness you showed in solving our scheduling problem is there, and therefore, we can find that is the it is becoming very important, that is the how specifically you you give a message. So, therefore, there is no doubt about that is the how the person will be working and taking the actions. Now, the descriptive type of the element in the constructive feedback is that I am getting tired of your rudeness and disinterest when others are talking. So, you were not looking at anyone else when they were talking, which gave the impression you were bored. Is that how you were feeling? So, therefore, in that case the message is given. But the way the message is given in spite of that criticism, that is the you were looking to the rudeness and the disinterested, it is the it seems that you were bored and that how if that was that how you were feeling. Now, another important point is this, that is the before it becomes too late, it is better that is a timely we are giving that particular constructive feedback is there. So, Mr. J, I think I need to tell you about an impression you made on me in the staff meeting last month, right. Joe, do you have a minute? I was confused by something you said in the meeting this morning is there. So, therefore, in that case you see that is if we are giving the constructive feedback, and then in that case you are protecting the ego of the other person also, and when you protect the ego of the other person, then the things will be more clarified and the team building will not be affected. And the last element of the constructive feedback is that is about the flexible. So, although feedback is best when it is timely, and sometimes waiting is preferable instead of giving feedback at the earliest opportunity. So, many times you have to also see that is what is a time, what is a place, and what is the manner of communicating that constructive feedback is there. So, therefore, you have to be flexible, you should not be that direct that is immediately you are giving the feedback is there. So, therefore, in that case when we take care of the 6 elements of the constructive feedback, then definitely in that case that feelings, emotions of your team members that will be strong and they will be having that better understanding. Now, we will talk about the role of listening before giving the feedback is there, and the systems view of communication emphasize that effectiveness depends on both transmitting and receiving information. It is not only the one way that is the transmitting and then you are not sure that is the other person has received the information or not, because in the communication process we know that is a sender, receiver and the feedback is there. So, therefore, in that case it is a receiving the information is not done, then it will be very difficult. Listening to either before expressing one's feedback to others is there, and therefore, many people are very fast giving the feedback, but what is important is let us have some patience and listens to the another person. Might be that our feedback is a different dimension as compared to the what is the reality is. So, people in leadership roles are only as good as the information they have, and much of their information comes from the watching and listening to what goes on around them is there. So, therefore, in that case it is important that is the whatever the information, right. So, therefore, that has to be more the correct, and then that is the leader should be also very careful in the watching and listening to others. Attend to the sender's non-verbal behavior. We have talked in communication earlier, that is there can be the verbal message, there can be the non-verbal messages there. So, much of the social meaning in message is conveyed non-verbally, and when verbal and non-verbal signals conflict, people often tend to trust the non-verbal signals are there. So, therefore, always your body language, your tone, pitch, voice and your the way your the kinesics is there, body language is there, and then accordingly the person will receive your feedback, rather than verbally you might be saying that is I trust, but if your body language is this, that is whatever you are saying and whatever you have in your mind is not matching, then the person will have the doubt. So, role of listening before giving in the feedback is important when they demonstrate non-verbally that you are listening is there. Make sure your non-verbal behavior show that you have turned your attention entirely to the speaker is there. So, put aside both mentally and physically other work they may have been engaged in. So, therefore, in that case that is why many times you find in the meetings and we have taken the examples also in the previous slides, that is the whenever the leader finds that is the the member was not taking the interest, and then in that case the way he communicates, that becomes very very important. So, it is possible that is the mentally or physically your team member that he requires a different suggestions. So, therefore, in that case they should be engaged in communicating the appropriateness of the message. Actively interpret the sender's message. So, the essence of active listening is trying to understand what the sender means. So, we need to keep our minds open to the sender's ideas. So, good listeners withhold a judgment about the sender's ideas until they have heard the entire message is there. This is many times has been seen practically, that is the those who are the good listeners are there. So, therefore, they do not give the immediate judgment, they think about it, they learn, they understand, that is the what is the message behind what has been told and what has not been told. So, they have heard the entire message, and this way they avoid sending the message that their minds are made up of and avoid. So, jumping to the conclusions about what the sender is going to say. So, many times even the people are not allowing to complete your sentence or what the leader wants to talk, because they are having certain perceptions and biasness, and as a result of which they jump to the conclusion. So, that is to be avoided. Use paraphrasing words for ensuring mutual understanding. For example is given, I am not sure, I understand what you mean, is it right? So, do you mean? So, what I hear you saying is, it seems you, from your point of view, as you see, you appear to be feeling, you think, correct me if I am wrong, but I get the impression. So, therefore, in that case you find that is these are the ways where you can communicate, and when you communicate like this with these sentences, then definitely in that case it will be creating a different impression is there. So, make sure that is the whenever you are having the this type of these communication, you have to ensure that is you are using the paraphrasing words so that the mutual understanding between that the sender and receiver, it does not disturb, and then both are able to maintain that understanding is there. And this art, particular art that will build a better relationship amongst the team also, among the team members also, and between the team members and the leader also. Many times it has been seen that is the people become defensive, right, because if the constructive feedback is in the form of these criticism, then definitely in that case the people find that is the somebody is attacking. So, defensive behavior is more likely to occur when someone feels threatened. That is the message which has been given to him that says about that is, if you will not improve, then you will not be a team member. So, therefore, when become defensive and criticize, defensiveness lessens a person's ability to constructively use the information is there. Now you see, when the person becomes defensive, he becomes careful, and when the person becomes careful, it is affecting his ability, because then whatever the, suppose simple example, he wants to take certain risk so that the project can be complete in time, he will not be able to do that particular project. So, therefore, what is the response type of the feedbacks is required, so that then again there is a question of R and R. That is whether do you react or do you respond. So, wherefore, in the case of the whenever there is a feedback is there, that is you have to respond to that particular feedback. People do not know they are being listened to unless you make some type of the response is there. Simple example is the nodding of head is there, or the verbally confirmation is there, or the written confirmation is there. So, then the people understand that what has been told, that has been reached to you. This can be simple eye contact also, and non-verbal responsiveness such as smiles, nods and eye contact, that can be also possible. However, when we coach or consult someone, we must also select carefully from a repertoire for verbal response alternatives, which clarify the communication as well as strengthen the interpersonal relationship is there. So, therefore, in that case whenever it is you are supposed to respond, then you can use the advising, deflecting, probing and the reflecting, and therefore, in that case that is responses that can be articulated and designed. So, when you are having this articulation and designing of this the appropriate response, for example, the advising is concerned. So, whenever there is a need of the advising, then definitely we have taken the example that is in the case of the helpful, and in the case of the helpful we have advised that is whether I can helpful to you or how you can use the your resources. So, therefore, here you will find that is the this type of these responses they will be taken very positively. In advising in in the case of the deflecting is there, then that will be creating the more these communication which will be not having the direct approach, and therefore, in that case whenever the response is from given by the leader to the team members, right, then that might be the deviating, and therefore, that may be away from the original problem or the original statement is there. So, it is very necessary as we have taken in the 6 elements of this feedback, that is about the direct. So, we should avoid the deflecting and we should be very much direct, so that the person to whom we are giving that particular response he is able to connect with his activities, and if this type of these direct is response is given in spite of this deflecting, then definitely the members they will be having the more and more the positive approaches are there. Now, when we may substitute our own experience for that of the other person, something similar that happened to me or introduce an entirely new topic that reminds me of the time. So, then in that case you are making the deflection is there. Now, probing response asks a question about what the other person just said or about the problem he or she has shared. So, the intent of a probe is to acquire additional information to help the other person say more about the topic is there what he has just said, to help you become more empathetic with the more insight, or to help you develop more appropriate responses are there. And many times the people probe, so that by probing they get the more detail about that particular point which the speaker was talking about. So, that is the elaboration is there, clarification or the repetition or the reflection will be there is there. Now, in the case of this reflecting is concerned, the primary purpose of the reflecting response is to mirror back to the communicator the message you heard and to communicate understanding and an acceptance of the person is there. And therefore, in that case message is in reflecting, basically the message may be the different words allows the speakers, because then he is talking or responding in his own term, to listen, to understand and free to explore the topic in more depth is there. So, we should keep the following rules in mind when using the reflective responses: avoid expressing agreement or disagreement with the statements, avoid repeating the same response, avoid mimicking the communication word, respond to express feeling before responding, and respond with the empathy and acceptance is concerned. So, this will be the directive response that and the non-directive response is there, generally useful when the when the counseling is there. So, therefore, in that case you are taking care of the person to whom you are giving the this particular response, right. So, always it is directed to the non-directive responses or the close to open responses is there. It is always preferred that is there has to be the open responses as compared to the closed response is concerned. So, as usual these are the research papers and the books we will be talking about the effects of the goal setting and feedback on manufacturing productivity. A field experiment is there, you can go through this research paper. Similarly, this is the case study, the riverbank case study is there, and therefore, in that case that is during the training program how this type of this communication process and the feedback process has been used, and therefore, whenever there is a feedback process is there, how it can be the positive or negative, that you can see by reading this particular case study. This is the book recommendations, feedback skills for the leaders is there, and building the constructive communication skills up and down the ladder is there. So, that is about you will understand that is how we can provide the constructive feedback. These are the references for the study material and for your future references. Thank you.